Live streaming is on.
Hello, everybody. We're here in the Church of God. No, we're not. I just stopped with the. I made that same joke the other day. So, hello, everybody. We're here with Mr. J.J. Jones, one of my biggest, dearest, older friends, and one of the best artists in the industry and cover artists in the last 20 years. Easy. So, hello, JG. Hello, Jeff. How are you?
Hi, David. It's good to see you.
To see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. The only problem is usually when I see you, we get to eat wonderful food together. So, I'm missing that a little bit.
That's true. We're going to get to that point later. But since you started it, what are you missing the most with this crazy, boring apocalypse?
Well, I was making fish last night, and I remembered that wonderful fish we had in Ikaruna.
Mhm.
It was the ugliest fish I'd ever seen, and it was also the most delicious fish I've ever eaten.
Yeah, in front of the aquarium, I remember.
Yeah.
I remember your face, and I was like, "Don't worry, eat it, eat it. That's good." So, you miss the travels,
Yeah.
or you miss the food?
Yes, all
Uh,
of the above. I
what?
miss the people. I
Yeah.
miss meeting all the people.
What's the food you miss the most?
Oh, you know me. I just love food.
Yes. And the places, which is the, if you could right now, just boom, teleportation,
Hmm.
the place you could go right now.
Well, back to
It
Boston.
it can be a restaurant, it can be a movie theater, it can be a town, it can be in whatever the moon, whatever. What
Well,
could you
back
say?
to Barcelona.
Okay, people guests here can keep repeating they want to come back to Spain.
Of
It's not a
course.
joke. They love Spain. It's not me telling them before, hey, you gotta say Spain. No, they just say it because they want to. Just so you know, because it's starting to look like I'm, telling them in advance, you gotta say Spain. No, 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 not true. So, do you remember what's the last movie you've seen on TV or TV show?
I just finished watching Devs, which was fairly interesting. Um, it was kind of the opposite of the Matrix, where they're trying to get out of the fake digital world, and devs are trying to get in it and live there forever. So,
And
it's,
when we're talking about the kind of things you like to watch or read,
mm,
are you more of a guy? I was discussing with Chaikin, like 2 weeks ago, and he was telling me, about he's a novels guy. He needs to keep reading novels, and he's a non-fiction guy. And I was telling him,
yeah,
I don't know why, and we discussed this years ago. Um, there was a moment when I literally stopped reading fiction. I moved to nonfiction, and this is what I read. I can be with an audiobook, walking Atticus, walking the dog, and being with a novel. But my normal thing is I read nonfiction. Where,
yeah.
where are you on that? You are more of a nonfiction guy or a fiction guy, or even both.
I'm kind of both now. I used to pretty much just read history, and I still read a lot of history.
Hmm.
But when I had my stem cell transplant and I was lying around in bed a lot, just got home from the hospital, I decided I wanted to read more science fiction and fantasy, which I used to read when I was younger. So I got into Martha Wells' books, the Murder Bot series. I don't know if you've read that, but it's really
Not yet, but
highly recommended. Good fun stuff.
I'm making a note. Uh, so let's go fantasy. Of course, I know you're a huge fan of the of Tolkien, Lord of the Rings,
Oh,
because you're still doing that. If you haven't seen the pieces that Jeff is doing with the Lord of the Rings, you guys are missing incredible stuff. That's really amazing. So, and I think he's gonna show it. Oh my god.
oh, there's some.
Okay, guys, we can cut this. We can cut this. I'm going to stop. This is whoa, whoa, whoa. Just incredible. Whoa. Okay, that's you saw. Silo.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a new one on the drawing board right now.
Nice. So if you could pick Lord of the Rings aside, because that's we know how much you love it. But if you could pick science fiction, I'm going to start with science fiction book or saga of books to
Mm.
illustrate right now. You could say, "This is what I could die to do." I don't know, Foundation by Asimov, or Red Mars, or
Sure.
the Mars trilogy, or Philip K. Dick, or whatever. What is your head? Your brain right now saying this is what my brain needs to
If I went to science fiction, it'd have to be Dune. That's like Dune has always been my go-to. You know, especially the original novel. Some of the follow-ons are okay, but the original is it's like a perfect book.
with me maybe Dune fans are going to hate me because of this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think that Dune is like that kind of TV show that it only needs one season, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you go to season 2, it's like Prison Break, for example, or something like it's like no, it's done. Or for me, kill me, I'm sorry people, Westworld is like it's done. First season, it's done. Like what Lindelof did with Watchmen. He told the story he wanted to tell in one season. Like if Warner Brothers wants to continue, I don't care. I told my story.
And
So
it was perfect.
yes, absolutely perfect. And I am happy because he shot a lot of mouths about Lindelof, and I have been telling for years. This is not the guy you think it is because of the finale in Lost.
Right.
This guy is actually really good. And what you saw in Prometheus, that wasn't him. That was Ridley Scott getting two scripts together and just picking the scenes that look good. So it's like, you gotta give him credit. But anyway, going back. With Dune, I have the same thing. I love the first novel, and then the rest is like, no, we don't need it. The story is told.
Right. It's done.
I
I feel
do-
the way with a lot of like streaming shows now. Just tell me one story, one season or two, whatever it takes, and be done with the story. I don't want to have to keep coming back for 7 seasons of 8 episodes. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I'm liking about, I was talking the other day with, I think it was Olivieto, I'm not sure, and I was telling him, I have a big problem with Netflix now, which is there's so much stuff
yeah,
and so many shows that I keep saying, okay, the next season I don't need to see it because the story I wanted told to me from an egotistical point of view, whatever, it's been already been told in one season. So
right.
I tend to veer more towards HBO or Apple TV Plus because I know there's going to be short seasons contained, and I also can just stop, sit down, and select. With Netflix, there's so much stuff. Like in 2 minutes, either I go to a cooking show, like Ugly Delicious or things like that,
Yeah.
which is going to be good, or I just go crazy and leave it because it's too much. That's happening to you too with the streaming services. You try to go to something more streamlined and easier to follow, or you just I'm going to take my time, and if I have to be Netflix for like 15 minutes trying to find something, I will.
It's why I like shows like Black Mirror. You get a different episode that's completely self-contained.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
next week, it might be good, might be bad, but it's a contained episode, a full story.
And going back to Dune, are you excited for the new movie, or nah?
I am actually. I'm hopeful. I'm always hopeful until I'm disappointed.
I'm really hopeful because it's Denis Villeneuve, and I
Exactly.
consider him the best, most talented in America, at least. In American movies, he's Canadian, but you know what I mean. The most talented director there is right now, and in terms of you said Dune in terms of science fiction, and in fantasy that is not Lord of the Rings, which is the one you would like to illustrate.
Actually, it might sound a little weird, but if I had to illustrate something, I might go back to do one of the Burroughs Mars books.
Oh my god!
In terms of illustration, that would just be the most fun.
Did you watch the John Carter movie years ago?
I liked it. I was the
Thank
one
you.
who liked
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, 2 of us. Two of us
No,
like,
I don't think. I think most of the people who watch it liked it.
yeah,
I think the problem was that that was chain of regime between the last Walt Disney Studios animation, not Bob Iger, that's about him, and the new one, and there was clearly I'm going to destroy this movie.
they did a terrible job of promoting it. I think.
And taking the Warlord of Mars or Princess of Mars, whatever you want to call it, from the title, because it's actually based on the first one, and the first one is Princess of Mars, right?
Yeah.
So why did you get that off the title? Oh, because we wanted to put it in the end. No, idiot. Nobody knows who John Carter is.
Nobody.
But if you put the of Mars, a lot of people are going to say, what's that about?
I'll go watch that. Yeah.
But that sounds amazing, John Carter, Lord of the Rings and Dune. I want to see that. Who wants to see that? Yes, all of you.
Everybody.
Okay. So, what is your favorite classic movies in terms of genre? You can pick on a genre, like a gender. I mean, like
Well, we argue about this all the time. I love Blade Runner.
Okay.
That's kind of my science fiction classic. As far as classic movies, I love all the old stuff. I love samurai movies from the 50s. So anything Kurosawa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm absolutely Seven Samurai. I think is a perfect film. I mean, don't even mess with it.
I think that we could say that about most of the Kurosawa movies, actually. Because whatever one you watch is like, I understand that the really good American or British or the other parts of the world directors, keep using him as a reference.
That's a reason.
Because it's there, in the way even in the way they should, if you watch Spielberg, you can see, or even George Lucas, you can see in Spielberg's case, David Lean and Kurosawa are always there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love David Lean films. They're, despite sometimes the politics can be a little wonky at this, 50 years later or 60 years later, it doesn't matter because his films are beautiful. And the storytelling is amazing.
Yeah, you can criticize all the politics in David Lynch. Shut up! You're watching Lawrence of Arabia.
Yeah,
or Chicago. You're like
beautiful.
Shh, or Bridge Over the River Kwai. Like, shh, just watch turn. It's like people,
it's presented as it's presented for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like people hating Columbus, and I keep saying the same. Put it in context. Just not think about now as it was in the 15th century, because then we start talking about Thanksgiving Day and many other things. Context is everything. So let's just not pick whatever we want to pick just because. And in terms of Westerns, who do you go back to? How I went back to, Anthony Mann. Other people goes back, to Leone's spaghetti Westerns. I always go to John.
I love Leone.
I always go back to John Ford. So you go back to Leone?
I love Leone. I watch anything and everything by him. But I think my favorite Western genre is probably Peckinpah, The Wild Bunch.
Oh.
That is just one of my favorite films all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
And in genre, I can go back and watch that. The writing is so good between the characters.
Yeah. I think almost any Peckinpah. Yeah. And if you have to, people, that this is just whatever I think of. So if you're going to expect something that is, on the line and scripted, it's not going to happen. No. If you were, drawing right now, as we said, illustrating Blade Runner or any of the others you mentioned, for each one of them, for Blade Runner, for Dune, and for which one? Well, sorry, I forgot the other one we said in fantasy. Oh, John Carter.
Oh yeah.
What would be your soundtrack for? And you cannot say Evangelist. You cannot say the ones. Imagine that you had to draw an adaptation of not an adaptation. No, illustrate the Do Androids Think of Electric Sheep?
Mm-hmm.
And you had to do illustrations for that book. What would be your background music for that?
Oh, jeez. I listen to so much stuff, as you can imagine, sitting around here all day by myself.
Yeah.
So it depends on what day of the week you ask me. But do you know that great Ghost in the Shell soundtrack from the first film?
Oh, yes.
It's just so good. And the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack is amazing.
I could put the Akira soundtrack too. What about Akira, the soundtrack?
Yeah, it's amazing.
And for Dune?
I would probably listen to some classical of some kind.
I think I know which ones you will listen to with Dune. The Symphony of the Planets by Gustav Holst.
Yeah.
Mars, etc., etc. That's what I think it is with Dune. And with John Carter?
Oddly enough, I'd probably listen to something metal.
I don't know. I don't think that's
Monster so Magnet. You know the band Monster Magnet?
I don't think that's so odd. You know, that's the Burroughs things, except for Tarzan, maybe, but it fits any crazy kind of music you can put it on. So, but and now let's circle back to the artist part. Imagine that you can pick now what you're gonna do next. Yes, you can just pick it. I'm gonna do this book.
I'm already working on what I want to do next.
What?
I'm already working on what I'm doing next.
Okay. I don't know if you can or want to talk about that, so I was going to go in a more ethereal way. So I asked the question.
I've been posting pages so people know that I'm working on it.
Okay, so what are you working on? Okay.
It's a graphic novel I wrote years ago, and I didn't have time to do it because I was always busy drawing a book, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So after my transplant, I said, what do I want to be doing? Not what do I have to be doing?
Yeah.
And I hauled out the graphic novel and did a rewrite on it, and I've started some pages. So it's called Dust to Dust. It's set in the Dust Bowl in the 1930s in Oklahoma. And there's some killing and a serial killer roaming around the Dust Bowl.
Nice.
The storms to cover his tracks.
If your plan is to do it, if you know, and if you can answer, your plan is to do it as a graphic novel, your plan is to do it as a mini-series, how are you planning to do it?
I think I'm going to do it as a graphic novel.
Nice.
I'm writing it as individual issues, and I didn't like the way I had to break at 22 pages because some of the scenes didn't naturally break where I wanted to. I wanted to be a little more expansive, create the world, the environment. So I think that I'd like to do it in maybe a series of 4 graphic novels.
Nice.
Of like 50 pages each. That European format that works so well.
Yeah, as album.
A little bit oversized.
Yeah. And I think I'm hearing myself in your computer.
I'm sorry?
I think I'm hearing myself in your computer. So the volume on somewhere.
Let me shut my laptop down.
No, that's better because I was getting rebound. So and do you have any idea how you want to publish it or not yet?
I have a pretty good idea, but I haven't formalized anything. I was talking with some publishers when, all hell broke loose and the world blew up.
When shit blew. Do you find this apocalypse as boring as I do?
Well, I'm a comic artist, Dave. So
Yep.
we're kind of used to sitting around in a room all day by ourselves. Plus, after transplant, I was stuck inside and immunosuppressed, which I still am. So I'm sort of used to this. This is what I've been doing for the last year and a half. It's getting a little old.
Yeah, but I meant literally in the sense of where are the zombies? Where's the the cows flying on the street? where's the vampires? Where's something, to make it, oh, look, look at the windows, like, oh, there's a cow flying. Something, something to make it interesting. It's becoming to a point where, oh, you got to stay home or you die. Okay. We want to
All in my head.
see anything, anything flying out of the window. But I got to say, as I mentioned to other people, that we're very lucky. Imagine this
Absolutely.
25 years ago with no streaming, with no video conference, not being able to see, watch, talk to the family, only with phone landlines. We're actually really, really, really lucky. What do you think we could be doing if we didn't have all this stuff, and this had happened in 1980?
Me, I'd be painting.
Okay. I mean, the rest of the world is not as talented as you, my friend.
Well, the rest of the world's all out there. What do I care? Don't do what they want.
Okay, that's a really good point. I cannot argue with that. So, your next project, are you thinking about coming back, or you are already doing it, to come back and work for, Marvel, DC, or any of the, or Valiant, or any of the others? So just trying to focus on Dust to Dust?
Well, what I've been doing is two things. I took this sort of job as a spokesperson for the MPNs, Voices of MPNs, which is the myeloproliferative neoplasms, which is a suite of diseases of which I had two, and I needed a stem cell transplant. So I'm doing a year of work interviewing patients and doing illustrations of those patients, and it all goes up online. So that's like my day job right now. It keeps me pretty busy. But I'm doing the Lord of the Rings illustrations and trying to get to a place where I can find a publishing outlet for that, and also the graphic novel. And I'm taking some cover work here and there as it comes up. But I'm so busy.
Literally.
Yeah, I'm busier than I've ever been right now. It's just that things have not hit publication yet. So.
Well, that's not bad.
No, not at all.
Especially in these crazy days where you have to be inside because of transplant and because of the boring apocalypse.
Yeah.
So let me
set up an oil painting studio in the front room. So I'm starting oil painting again.
Nice.
Like I don't have enough on my plate.
Nice. Well, like I don't have enough on my plate and I do this shit. So and then I go, and then every minute I have, I go back and write and whatever. So we are workaholics, and we just can't stop. We just need to be doing something. So even for ourselves, that most of the things I write, I just don't show anybody. It's piles on my computer, but I just need to do it, to must use other brain muscles. So let me see what people is saying. Robert Lee, hi guys, big fan of JG here. Iruno says wow, but because of the illustrations. Log Frank Howard says, my God, Lord of the Rings. Pedro de Mercader says, please somebody give JG a gig adapting the Lord of the Rings books.
Yes, please.
Everybody loved John Carter, it seems here. But you should have gone to the theater, guys. Anyway, jokes aside. Felipe Gonzalez says, it was a good one, John Carter, mixing classicism and modernity. You have the story with good characters. And then some questions. Are you okay with that?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Pedro de Mercader says, JG, can you tell us anything about your experience creating Final Crisis in Grant Morrison's castle?
Sure. I mean, what do you want to know? You and I have talked about this a whole lot.
Oh, yes.
Final Crisis was really exciting book to work on. Unfortunately, I sort of bit off more than I could chew at that point because I was just starting to show symptoms that I didn't understand of the disease, which was extreme fatigue. I was passing out at the drawing table. stuff like that, sleeping half the day and waking up with my pencil stuck in my face. And that was 30 pages an issue. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Plus 2 covers, 1 painted. It penciled in ink. It was a ton of work. And but as far as working with Grant, I always liked working with Grant. I mean, he was on the 52 book that I did all the covers for, and we did Marvel Boy together, which was just one of the most fun projects I've ever worked on.
So it wasn't crazy working on it as it is on the final page, because that's a fucking crazy book.
Oh, I love that book. It's just, it's so kinetic.
No, but I mean, working on it was as crazy and fun as it is for us as readers too. Because I think that when I read it, like, this is so fucking crazy. This is amazing. What I'm asking is, working on it was as much fun as it is reading it afterwards?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at all the design work I got to do. It wasn't just like, okay, here's a Batman script. Okay, you draw Batman. You pretty much know what Batman looks like. I work with Grant, even on Final Crisis, because the characters were taking on different forms, all the characters from Apocalypse. We had a lot of design work, which is something that I really enjoy. And he creates characters like a madman. All the Asian characters, we created all of those from scratch, So it wasn't just the physically sitting down and drawing the book and doing the covers. We had all this design work to do along the way as well. Yeah. So there wasn't much outside life. It was just at the drawing table, draw.
Yeah. But I think Pedro was asking about, we know the cases you work, with the writer at a distance, but in this case, you and Grant could sit down together, whatever it was, doesn't matter when, doesn't matter where. I mean, you guys got the chance to work together face to face and, decide what's going to happen?
When we first started talking about doing the project with DC and I signed on before we even started work, I flew over to Scotland and went to see Grant at his house, and we sat down and he pulled out all his art supplies and I had some, and we sat and just drew together for days while he explained the story to me. We worked on designs, we worked on just visual ideas for the book.
That must have been incredible, just you and him drawing and talking and, creating the project.
Yeah. He had this great old house out on this island in Scotland with a beautiful view of the bay, and we just sat there in the window at a table and worked for days. It was terrific.
Nice. I think that answers your question, right, Pedro? Then Felipe González Hernández asks, how do you feel about being the artist that started Miller World and his empire? I don't know if he has an empire.
Well, I guess he does have an empire of sorts.
Well, Netflix has it.
I had just always wanted to work with the guy.
Uh-huh.
What was that book he wrote for Image before he went over to Marvel?
I'm not sure.
Midnighter and
The Authority.
Yeah, The Authority.
Yeah.
I fell in love with his stuff on The Authority, and then he went over and was doing all that great work with Marvel. And built that alternate universe of theirs. So I basically called him up and said, would you want to work on a project with me? Do you have anything I could do with you?
Mm-hmm.
He said, sure. And he offered me 3 or 4 different books that he was working on at the time. And I picked Wanted because it just seemed like the most fun to draw.
Mm-hmm.
And off to the races. It was that simple, really.
And it wasn't even the first one, right? I think you guys, he published like 3 books at the same time, Wanted, the one about Jesus Christ, whatever the title is.
Yeah, I think it was.
That one that's for Dark Horse. I think he was doing one at Image, one at Dark Horse, one at maybe Marvel's. No, not Marvel, but you know what I mean. In 3 different, but at the same time, right?
Yeah. So that was his early Millar world.
Oh, and look where we are now. So, Locke Frank Howard. Okay, that's the same question. Can you tell us about Wanted with Mark Millar? I love that work of yours. Especially, I saw some things that reminded me on that book. He says that the script for Wanted reminded him of Watchmen.
Well, I'll take that.
Then Robert Lee says, "Dust to Dust sounds fantastic. Did you enjoy the HBO series Carnival, or Carnivale, whatever you pronounce it? It took place in the same era?"
I've deliberately avoided watching it so far because I don't want any influence seeping into what I'm doing. But what I've seen looks beautiful.
I would say it's not what you're doing, but it's a good idea to just stay away from it. I think it's a good idea.
It's kind of what I do when I'm working on a particular thing. I avoid watching anything that's like directly germane to that, unless it's documentary stuff. So I am watching a lot of Dust Bowl documentary.
But it makes sense because it also, even if you are not going in that direction, if you see something on that series that you would do anyway, the moment you see it, it's like, oh, it's on that series, so I'm not going to do it. So it's going to affect you whatever you do.
Right.
So it's just better to, you know what? Let's not look at it.
I want to stick to my story without other things coming in
absolutely.
rattling around in there.
Locke from asks, did you take place? Well, were you a part of the script for your miniseries with Black Widow? And how was the creation, or were you a part of, creating the character Yelena Belova?
I didn't create that. That was all Devin created that character, Devin Grayson.
Mm-hmm.
And she did all the scripting, but I did do the design work along with Joe Quesada. We both sort of worked on the design work for her. And I guess the biggest design change I made on Black Widow was taking the heels off of the costume. It just never made any sense to me that you could run around on rooftops.
I'm sorry, but superheroines or female superhero, whatever you're gonna call it, with heels makes no fucking sense.
No, it never has to me.
So when I saw that, like, yes, and then I see Batgirl, with heels, or Wonder Woman with heels, like, why are you doing? Why are you doing? You want them to break an ankle or something? It makes no. How are they gonna run with that?
It makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense. That was the book I knew your work with because of Black Widow, and I still to this day I think it's one of the most brilliant books in that Marvel Knights era. And Devin's script for that. I'm happy that people are talking about Devin now because of the movie.
Yeah,
Yelena, and of course you have to mention because of Yelena too. But I'm happy people is talking about her again because she's been so underappreciated over the years, and and not well treated in many ways by publishers and the readers who have been real assholes with her. That the recognition she's getting now, I think, is completely deserved. Do you think you're gonna get, if you can do it, and because of the health and everything, think you're gonna get an invitation from Marvel to go to the premiere?
Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you and Devin don't get the invitation, that wouldn't make sense. I think so.
Devin should at least.
What? Excuse me?
Devin should at least.
And you do. You did the series here. You designed Yelena to, you should be a part of it. Absolutely.
Fine.
Then says Eduardo Sacristan Puch, Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, Grant Morrison. You repeated Eduardo. You repeated Grant twice. You guessed. I think you meant to say Grant Morrison, Mark Waid, Mark Millar. Is there any other writer that for you would be a dream to work with? Like, I would like to work with that one aside of yourself.
I've been really lucky. I mean, throw Greg Rucka in there too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I've been really lucky with the creators I've been able to work with. Mark Waid, Brian Azzarello. I think right now, someone who I really love that I would like to work with would be Brubaker. And
Oh, yes.
pretty much read anything that he writes. I love the criminal series. It's just brilliant, brilliant, brilliant stuff.
I was going to say two names,
Go ahead.
Brubaker and Jason Aaron.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the... So, guys, tell them. JG wants to work with them. When he's done with Dust to Dust, that's the priority. Okay, more questions. Robert Lee, I love the covers for 52 Weekly that you did. Do you have a favorite cover from the series? Robert, that's like asking if you like dad or mom.
Pretty much. It's which one of your kids do you like best?
No. But do you have any, not a favorite in the strict sense of how it looks in the end, but the one that you saw, the concept, and said, I've been wanting to do this for years?
I think it wouldn't be one I would describe as one I've wanted to do for years. I think it was one that I just kind of pulled out of my backside at the last second. Might be my favorite. I don't know which issue number, but it was.
Don't worry, somebody will tell us. Some of you guys will tell us. They know better than we do.
Stencil of the question, the stencil painted on the wall. It says answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
I was supposed to fly home from New Jersey to Louisiana to see my family for Christmas, and they moved the deadline up on me and said, we need this before you leave, which was basically one day. So I had to come up with a concept and illustrate it in an afternoon. And because I lived in New York all those years and seen so much graffiti, I said, why don't I just leave that mysterious part of her where people are wondering who is the question. So I literally cut a stencil out, went in the backyard with a piece of paper and spray painted it, and that was my cover. I was done.
That's a great story, and probably something that people here wasn't expecting. Betty Rice says, can you tell us some more about Dust to Dust?
I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, guys, stop.
But I have been posting some stuff online. I'm doing it all in sepia-colored washes, watercolor washes.
Mm-hmm. And
So
there was even some John Carter in there.
Yes, there was.
So guys, check.
Threw a little bit of that in there.
Check. Do you see Dust to Dust as a Western, or you see it as something else?
It's a little bit of a Western. It's I did Strange Fruit with Mark Waid, and that had a lot of rain and water in it because it was set in a flood. So I guess now I'm doing a drought.
Okay. Opposites attract, I guess.
I don't know what book 3 will have to be. What do you think? Tidal wave or something? Who knows?
Yeah, going to the moon.
Okay.
Going to the moon. We have the dust, we have the flood. Something in the middle is boring. Next one is you just create your space opera.
I'll call Duncan Jones up and we'll get on a new moon story right away.
There you go. Well, you got to do it. And he's a huge comic fan.
He seems like a really great guy. I follow him on Twitter.
And as you know, he loves comics. So I don't think that's really out of the question. So Duncan Jones fans, go to Twitter, mention that. Just so you know, I'm giving you a lot of tasks to do today, but I know you can do it. So next, Felipe, I am very interested about your evolution as an artist from Wanted to Strange Fruit. You evolved into a pictorial style that I find evocative. That's not really a question, so I'm gonna make the question. I'm gonna do the question myself. When you were doing Black Widow, etc., the first, Marvel Knight stuff, and then all the years later, you get to a Strange Fruit. Is there really an evolution, or you were always pictorial, as he says, but in the sense of doing that work for Marvel, you were going more pencil with other inker, and then bit by bit you were gaining ground. Like, let me do this, let me do that,
Yeah.
until I got to the point that this is what I want to do. Because with Jesus side, for example, he started, hey, do just pencils, then you can do inks, and then we get to the point with, no, I'm doing everything. I do pencils, inks, and colors because that's what I've been wanting to do since the beginning, but you didn't let me.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate, actually. I mean, you and I have talked about that before. My first formal training I had when I was in high school was in watercolor.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I learned. And I always looked at all of the classic illustrators, N.C. Wyeth, Howard Pyle, all those guys. In addition to all the comics illustrators and Pratt and Muth and all those guys, when I first started in comics, I actually sat down and had a conversation with myself. Which way am I going to go? Am I going to go like one of those painter guys, which they get to do beautiful work, but they don't do much of it? And can I make a living on monthly books doing that?
Mm-hmm.
So I went with a more traditional pencil and ink style, which I sort of added on to with the washes. And then I got to do watercolor painted covers, scratch that itch for me over the years. I did a lot of that for DC and some for Marvel and different companies. So I've been able to do that watercolor style all the way through. So when I got to Strange Fruit, I said, I want to create this world since I'm creating it with Mark.
Yeah.
From whole cloth. I'm just going to paint the whole thing.
Nice. Just so you know, the other day, by the way, when I announced, in the last minute that you were going to be in today, Mark literally started applauding for you. So that was a really nice moment. In Strange Fruit, the creation was yours, right? And then Mark came in and helped you with the dialogue, or was he a bigger part of it? What was his role?
The initial story was mine, but we were going to do something else together, and then we just started talking about this story idea that I had, and we sort of wrote it together, and then he went back and did all the dialogue, so we plotted it all out together, and he went and rewrote all the dialogue and everything in the set pieces and cleaned it up. So it was kind of a joint operation the whole way.
Okay, because I thought it was more of your project with him chiming in to help just in the dialogue, but you actually wrote, the whole thing together in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I had the whole plot and story arc, but he kind of put the scenes together and everything so that it worked.
Okay.
I think a little better than, he's a professional writer after all.
Yeah. Lockfram is asking if working on Wanted, if the scripts by Mark were really tight, or you had the freedom to just, do the storytelling and the composition any way you wanted.
The great thing about Mark is his scripts are very visual and extremely easy to draw. He's got everything lined out perfectly. And outside of that, once he hands you the script, he's just like, go, do it. Mm-hmm. So, on the one hand, everything was there for me. I didn't have to go too far off campus to tell the story because it was all in the script. And on the other hand, if I did want to make changes or things that made sense, he was fine with it. So Mark was really great to work with.
Nice. Let me see. Rodolfo Migliari, also an amazing artist. And if you don't know his work, JG, you should.
Oh, yes.
He's a man. I guess you know.
Oh, yes.
Rodolfo says, hello, Rodolfo, by the way. Long time no see. Hola, Rodolfo. Hace mucho no nos vemos. For an artist that has accomplished so much and with nothing left to prove, what motivates you to keep sitting in front of your drawing board every day? And Rodolfo says, I am a big fan of Jay-Z's work, by the way.
basically, I don't know what to do with myself if I'm not making art. What I've been doing since I was 8 years old, and what I've always wanted to do. And there are so many projects that I'm afraid I won't have time to get to. So when I hate to keep harping back on it, but when I had my stem cell transplant and it was that close to, maybe not coming back from it, I decided to not put off things that I've been wanting to do. So these personal projects, The Lord of the Rings is something I've wanted to illustrate since I was a teenager. All the things I've always wanted to do, I'm just going to do them now.
And that's to that is something we've been talking about for many, many years before.
Yeah.
So I remember when you came back from the transplant, like, you know what? I put it back too much. Now it's time to just do it.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you're doing it because I know it's going to be amazing. So Eduardo says, Brubaker plus J.D. Jones plus Noir sellout book. Pedro de Mercader says, thank you for answering my question, blah, blah, blah. Okay, guys, more questions, but I'm going to ask my stuff to JG now. So, cooking.
Yes.
What do you like to cook the most? Amazing Louisiana stuff, guys. You got to see it. He's so good. So good.
That's probably what I do like to cook the most. Dawn likes taco night because I do tacos, shrimp tacos, whatever we have. But I like to cook my Louisiana food, gumbo, jambalaya, stuff like that. And I still do that fairly regularly, but usually I do it when we can have people over, which we've not been able to do for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So, I cook it. I love to cook. I cook anything. Dawn's a good cook too, so since we've been stuck in the house here and we're both working like mad beasts, we try and take time out for preparing interesting meals since we can't go out to restaurants and stuff anymore.
And what is the food that is not from Louisiana that you would like to learn how to cook properly?
I love to cook Italian. We actually, Dawn has been cooking because right near my house is a lot of Vietnamese shops and things. We've been cooking a lot of curries and pho and stuff like that. And Dawn's really good at that stuff. Although she makes it so hot that even this Louisiana kid has a problem sometimes with that much chili. I don't know. It's just whatever whim I get is what we'll do.
Nice. I want to see. I want to see.
I'm sorry, you broke up there for a second.
Yeah, because I was hearing myself again. I was saying you gotta work on your Spanish omelette.
I love that.
And the pulpo.
I will. I promise.
So I don't know what's going on. I don't know if people is seeing us because suddenly YouTube froze, literally froze. But anyway, we're going to continue, and then if it's not,
oh well.
Yeah, blame the internet. What is if you have a favorite character?
No, I get asked this question all the time, and it's always what I'm working on next, and what I'm working on next. Yes, I have when I was a kid, I was always a Marvel kid, so Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, anything Marvel. But now I'm pretty much wide open. There's so much great stuff. And so much great. Well, right now we're kind of the creator-owned world has exploded with so many great titles.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things that this pandemic is going to cause is people realizing, as I said, I keep saying, do we really need the middleman?
Hmm.
I think we don't. In many cases, that's, I'm not going to ask about dust to dust. Don't worry about it, and whatever you want to do. But you see, Pop Kill by Jimmy, Dave, and Juan Santa Cruz, my guy. One day, boom, he started on. Star Returns. It took like 3 hours. The new, Matt Kint, Jeff Lemire, and David Rubin. It took an hour.
Yeah.
So people.
Sorry. By the way, that's another one. I'll read anything he writes. Jeff Lemire.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think he's in a role. Like he's just at that time, like Brubaker, many of those guys, but Lemire especially. He's just boom in a role. Everything he touches is so good.
Yeah.
And that Black Hammer thing. Yeah, you cannot do a superhero thing that is not Marvel or DC. Yeah, just look.
Sure you can.
You can. It's not that good. If you're that good, you can do it. So what I was going to say is that I lost my train of thought now. But just people is really clear. People want the comics. They want to read comics. They just can't get them because of this box distribution with Diamond. But if you tell them, this is what I do, this is the book I do, especially with names like you, like Jimmy, like Dave, like of course Starling because of the Avengers movie, whatever. But I don't think that's the main cause. Like Lemire, like these guys, people want.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just gotta get the comics in their hands. So that legend about people doesn't want to read comics, no, they just can't because they don't. Maybe they don't want digital. Maybe, but if you get it to their hands in whatever, Oklahoma, Arkansas, New Jersey, New York, whatever, people's gonna read it. The main problem is that they cannot find them because they have a comic store. Of course, here we don't have that problem because everything is very, which it was a big problem with the pandemic too. Everything is so densely populated that it's easier, to get the contagion, but everything is close by. So you can get to the store, subway, but people in the US, as you know much better than I do, they have to drive.
Yeah.
That to get to the comic book.
In a city like I do,
so
Philadelphia, I'm lucky. I walk up to my comic shop is like 7 blocks away.
Exactly. So do you think that this pandemic is going to change the way people get their comics? Is finally going to force, and again, as I always say, I have nothing against Diamond, and if you guys, shop owners like Diamond, more power to you. My point is, do you think this is going to force people to realize, as readers and as publishers, guys, stop thinking short term and in the same box? Either we go out of it or we're there.
Oh, I hope so. I think that box has already been kicked open. It's just everybody's running around scattering now and trying to figure out how the next phase of this distribution system is going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I have some ideas that I've been talking to Ross Ritchie about that I'm not ready to put out here. But I had some thoughts about this. I think things are going to look different when we come out of this. They're going to have to. We're stuck with this problem right now where it's great to have comic shops. I love comic shops. You can go in and find stuff you didn't know existed.
Absolutely.
Tons of back issues and stuff. But if you don't seek out a comic shop, if you're not already a fan, if you're just a civilian, you don't know where to get this material.
Absolutely.
And you just turn on Netflix and forget about it, and you're off to some other something else you're watching or reading or whatever you're doing, and you forget about the comics.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a way to have them in front of people where they can see and want them and get them. That's not just having to go to a specific location to get new comics.
Yeah, and I think that Kickstarter thing is, pushing people around. What DC did with, going to Walmart should make people think a lot.
Yeah.
Is there?
About this a lot because my wife's company had to close the doors of their office, and everyone's working from home.
Hmm.
And then that starts to beg the question, how much do you need that office?
Boom. Yes, absolutely.
So I think that's sort of the same thing that's happening with comics. If I can do a one-to-one, I'm not looking to put comic shops out of business because I love comic shops.
Absolutely, but you don't have to. That's the point. There's that fake dichotomy of if you go out, you're killing the shops. No, you're not.
Right.
It's like thinking, you don't remember FNAC, the big mall chain here, the cultural chain. Is FNAC is not killing. They sell a lot of comics. It's not killing the comic shops.
Right.
It's
Right.
not. It's just another venue, or El Corte Inglés, or whatever you want to call it. So if we have another venue, it's going to be better for the comic shop, because that means the publishers are going to have more money to spend on different editions for the shops.
Yeah. I have a friend that's working on a model where the comic shop is basically like a coffee shop, where they have some food and
Yep.
some beverages and lounging.
Yep.
You can go in, you can read comics, you can buy the comics, and you can, because I think the thing about the comic shop on Wednesday is it's a social meetup. It's more
Absolutely.
purchase.
Absolutely.
Well, so, why not just try expanding that idea so that it's a place where people go?
Sometimes I guess it's because of the short-term element. I mean, if you think about, I'm going to get a space of the shop where I could have comics to get that launch space, so that freaks them out, and I can understand it. But from my point of view, the long-term thinking would be exactly what you said. If I put that space, I'm going to have people doing more time in my shop. They're going to check more stuff. They're going to get more friendly. They're going to get more social. So they're going to want to come back.
Right.
Buy
Right.
more stuff. It's not a library, but
Right.
it's a place where you can sit down, check stuff that you've never done, and many books that you will never buy because you go to for your Batman, your X-Men, your Lemire, your J.G. Jones.
Yeah.
But if you stay down, stay there, sit down, and start reading stuff, which is also the model of FNAC in Spain and in France. They have fucking sofas on the
Yeah.
store.
And you talk to the staff, they see you like this thing. Oh, well, have you read this other thing?
Yeah.
Make recommendations on what you...
Your comic shop owner, in a way, is your mentor.
Yeah.
It's the guy who guides you to read the stuff that you could have never read. So if you give more power to that area, that space, that frame of mind of this is a place to get together. This
Right.
is not just the creepy place where your mom would never have you because it's creepy. If it looks more like a reading space, even moms or dads would think, wow, I can get my kid to read more in this place. You devote the special time, like they do in the Apple stores, with the genius areas and the courses for small kids to learn, how to use Procreate, or the other guys to learn how to design, with those benches which I think is a brilliant idea. Same thing. You create hours and times to say, hey, a school name, whatever, in your area of Philly, Monday from 10 to 3 to 5 to 5 to say something. You can come in. Kids can sit down, have some snacks, and read some comics. You don't have to buy anything.
Right. Right.
The publisher say, "Hey, you gotta have some freebies for me for my store." So when these kids come, stop thinking about fucking free comic book day once a year. No, do
Right.
it. Think about long-term
Do it once a month. I don't
stuff, small stuff for kids every week.
Sure.
So they come home with a free comic. Those kids sooner or later will come back with money and buy.
Absolutely. Yep.
What do you think about that? Do you think it's more a library space or a learning space, or even having guys like you or at the store sometimes, like they do, in the Apple store, as I was saying, demonstrations of teaching the kids how to draw, etc., etc. Do you see it more as a learning space or as a reading space? The future of comic shops, I mean, or both.
I don't know what's going to happen with the future of comic shops. I honestly don't. But I do look. What I'm thinking is we need to expand more than this one model we have.
Yes, absolutely.
One model of distribution is Diamond. That's it. Nothing against Diamond, but there's nothing else. If you're not in the Diamond catalog, you don't exist.
Yes.
And a comic shop. When I was a kid, I'm getting my age now. When I was a kid, there were no comic shops.
Mm-hmm.
I did all my reading at the local drugstore, with the spinner rack.
Yeah.
I went off to college and stopped reading for a few years. And when I came back to comics, suddenly I had to go to a store. Now I have to find a store. Well, where's the comic shop? I don't know.
Yeah.
I eventually found one.
But you just made exactly the point. You have to find it. You have to look at the comic shop locator.
Yeah.
That's makes no sense. That you find the thing you want to read, you have to go to a locator to see where the story is, instead of just going out and in a place where there should be comics, just find them.
Yeah.
I think I agree with you. I don't know what's going to happen with the future, but I also think they need to change the model of the store. If we're going to get some other places with distribution, something that doesn't affect the stores is to become a special place in that sense, more like a lounge. Like I forgot the name, the San Francisco store. I know you know the one I mean. I forgot the name. Anyway, doesn't matter.
I can't remember names.
No, but the store in San Francisco that is really famous, that is more, in fact, the name of the store is Comic Lounge. It's not just store. But what I mean is creating some space that is different for you, that you want to stay in.
Yeah. But just that model won't work by itself either, because there are so many titles now, and I don't see where there are more dollars in the hobby. So you have sort of a set pot of money that's being spent on comics every month, and you have so many more titles. So the sales for individual books are going down and down and down and down. When I first started in the business, if you had a book that dropped below 100,000 copies, it was canceled.
Yep.
I mean, that was it. You had to, and then it was 70, and then it was 50. And now if you put out a book and you sell 3,000 copies, people think they've done a great job. It's like, is that sustainable? I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think. Let me say it this way. I agree with you on the quantity, but maybe I think the solution is changing the format. Of course, it's distribution, but also the format is you cannot go more than 50 Marvel, 50 DC books, 20 Dark, whatever. Let's make just a not real number. But at the same time, the Earth One stuff that DC did in a way, or back in the day, the Marvel graphic novels, remember?
Sure. Yeah.
When first Dread Star came out, Star Slammers, and all that stuff. That was brilliant because you have both choices.
Right.
Which is, you can go for the monthlies, but also every month we are going to have this special line of graphic novels, which didn't affect, and I think won't affect if they do it again. The Earth One book by DC, people bought it, and it didn't affect, their monthly line because it's a different customer.
Right. Sure.
So I think it's just a matter of format. Like we have a limit. We know these customers are going to buy in the comic store. Okay, this format, again, the Walmart stuff or graphic novels, album size, we have to go to another client, or we have to go to another venue, or keep it in the comic shop. But if that's not the real venue, we can go somewhere else. We got to give the comic shop owners what they sell. That's fine, absolutely. That's what they do. That's what the readers want.
Yep.
Give other readers what they want.
But we have to bring new readers in too, and not necessarily ones who are just going to look for a comic shop. Look how much business the comic book movies make, but that doesn't translate to readership.
I can tell you that every time there's been, and because of Wanted to and some others, I guess, every time there's been a movie based on one character or the other, the royalties for the paperbacks are like good. So it does affect. The point is, it could affect a lot more. Yes, if they could find the fucking comics.
Yeah. Which,
The
having
numbers
graphic
are-
novels in bookshops helps. Just straight bookshops.
Yeah.
Um,
Suicide Squad was a so seller in New 52, and then the movie came out, and the royalties were like boom.
I'm sorry.
No worry about it. The royalties went boom, and same with the others. So there is people who they see the movie and they want to get it, but if they don't have where,
Right.
or they don't have a format they want, so I guess it's. I absolutely agree with you. I think it's the format, and I think it's the distribution, and also the stores after this crazy pandemic.
Yeah.
Finding, hey, we need to change. How are we going to change? How are we going to stay important? And not being scared of the other venues where they can sell the stuff.
Right.
It's a conversation between. I was talking to I don't know who he was, probably an editor, and I was telling, I hope this happens finally. Gathering of publishers, sitting down together and saying, look, okay, this is the market. We are going to keep our market in the comic shops. That's fine. Respect everything they do. We love it. Diamond, we're going to keep it. But let's sit down and let's not leave this fucking office until we've all agreed on how to get new venues.
Yeah.
Not individual thing, not a scatter. Everybody has to sit together and find a solution.
Absolutely. I was watching The Boys recently, and it's on Amazon Prime, right?
Yep.
And Amazon sells graphic novels.
Yep.
Right? And I'm wondering, why is there no link when I'm watching the show? Here's a link. Go read the graphic novel. Why isn't there a link to send me right there to get it? So that if I'm not a comic reader, so that I'm made aware immediately that it's available as a book.
I honestly understand, probably because Amazon or the other side, they don't care. They're not interested in you knowing it. But maybe there's something that, I don't know. Maybe I'm out of line here. Maybe some of the publishers or the creators who has the rights should put a clause saying, you got to mention this. It's got to be at the beginning or the end. You gotta show the books, etc., etc. But it's not happening in any case at all. So there's gotta be something that, of course, we don't know about. I don't know.
I mean,
what?
Watchmen, the same thing.
Yeah.
There was no link to buy the original Watchmen graphic novel.
Absolutely, it just makes no sense. Let me see. Rick Watson.
Hey, buddy.
Rick Watson, aka Hawk Branch, asked JG about the odd similarities between his creator project rant and his subsequent diagnosis.
Wait, I don't understand the question.
I don't understand it either, but I'm going to repeat it again because my English is shitty. She says, ask JG about the odd similarities between his creator project rant and his subsequent diagnosis.
My old vampire book rant that I did when I first started in comics. Actually, that book got me hired by Jim Shooter. I wrote this vampire story with a friend of mine, Jonathan Larson, and we literally went through a snowstorm to the Javits Center to a comic book convention in New York City. And I had 5 pages of the book drawn, and Jonathan said, show it to this guy. And I showed it to, I didn't know who Jim Shooter was at the time. And he hired me on the spot with 5 pages. So I didn't actually finish drawing the book until Defiant went out of business and I had no work for a short period of time. But I think what Rick is referring to is it's a vampire book that I was writing and has a lot to do with blood disease. And I end up with a blood disease. So I don't know, maybe I jinxed myself.
Well, I certainly hope that's not the case.
But I do have another graphic novel with the same character that I'm working on. So maybe after Dust to Dust, it's set in the Black Plague in Italy in the 14th century. So
Wait, when we talk, well, we
I
just
segue. It's another graphic novel.
we just said that the third one was going to be on the moon. So it's gonna be Black Plague, vampires.
I told you I'm trying to do everything at once right now.
You know,
I'm running out of time. Time
vampires, Black Plague, 15th century on the moon.
and Lord of the Rings.
There you go. And then we just make a jump from the moon to Mars, and we make John Carter.
Yeah, the gravity is less on Mars. He just makes a really powerful leap, and it carries him all the way to the moon.
There you go. And there's vampires, so they can do whatever they want.
They're made of Mars, right?
Yeah, except they could have a big problem if they're on the moon with with the sun. Well, they have to be on the dark side.
Yeah,
all time. So
air might be a problem.
We can use Pink Floyd, as a soundtrack for that. Just for that. Anyway, let's continue after this crazy, whatever. Pedro de Mercader, another question. What about Hiquetea? Did you enjoy working on that book?
I begged to be allowed to draw that book. When I left Marvel and went over to DC for the first time, I heard about this script floating around the office, and it sounded interesting, and it didn't have an artist attached.
Wait, what? Floating?
Yeah, the project had sort of started and then been pulled back. It wasn't quite ready to go. So I begged to be allowed to draw it.
Mm-hmm.
And they agreed. So Greg and I saw each other at San Diego Comic-Con and sat down and talked about the book. He asked me, is there anything that you would like me to put in there that you'd like to draw? Which I thought was really generous. And he had told me about this scene with Batman and Wonder Woman and The Ritual. So I said, how about we do a cover with Wonder Woman's foot on Batman's head? If that doesn't sell comics, I don't know what will.
Yes.
So I go away. It's months later. I'm working on the book. Everything's going great. And I get a call from the editor. Bob called me and said, Greg has a great idea for the cover. You want to know what it is? I said, sure. You know what? That is a great idea for a cover. Let's do that.
Okay.
It's okay. It all worked out beautifully.
Yeah. Okay. Let's say okay. Okay. Locke from Howard. Is there any project that you can talk about that you were about to do, but in the end it did not come out, or you just moved to something else?
Oh, there's been so many. You know how that goes in this business. Things get teed up and then pulled back at the last second. There've been so many I probably can't even remember them all.
But is there one? And I'm not going back to favorite characters.
That got away.
Yeah, the one that got away. Is there one that got away?
No, I've been pretty lucky. I've pretty much done what I wanted to since Black Widow. I've been really lucky. What I usually do, I don't draw monthly books.
Mm-hmm.
I'll draw a mini series or something like that. So what I generally do is, if there's a writer I really like,
mm-hmm.
I'll just try and get a project with them. And whatever that project is, we talk about it, we work it out, and I get to work with these creators that I love. So,
Jason, Ed, Jeff, you three, you just heard. Now is your move. Both other people. Now's your move. Next, Felipe says, okay, that you already answered this, but I'm going to ask it anyway, so you can say the same answer. If you have the choice to make your own dream project without any limits, what would it be?
Oh, I'm doing it right now. So
there you go, guys. There you go. It's been. Wait, I don't want to keep you that much because you would say an hour and it's 74 minutes. Um, what would you do if you weren't a comic book artist? Jeff, I know, but
Well, before I became a comic book artist, I was a painter. That's what my master's degree is in fine art painting. And I switched over to comics because I needed to make a living.
yeah.
So now I'm actually starting to paint again. But I think that if I weren't doing comics, I'd like to be more of a classic illustrator, like a book illustrator. I love all that stuff. The Wyeth Museum is not far from my house. We drive down there usually once a year. Can't right now, obviously. There are a bunch of Howard Pyle worked and taught in this area. So that whole Brandywine School of Illustrators was around here. I grew up on those Hildebrandt illustrations of Lord of the Rings. I would like to do some sort of classically illustrated books.
Yeah.
Book covers and things. Yeah.
I love that. I love to see. Well, that's also what you did on the. I'm not sure. The Star Wars book, you did interior illustrations on the cover, right?
Yeah.
So that's more or less
yeah.
That's more or less what we are talking about, right? To do that, but in classic books, we said Dune, Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
I don't know if the Philip K. Dick fits that.
Beowulf. I'd love to do an edition of Beowulf.
Oh.
And Gilgamesh has always been on my list.
That's amazing. Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to let Jeff go. Oh, okay. We have another question, and the last we're going to do that, and then let him go. You guys, he has a life and work. Robert Lee, J.G. John, one of my absolute favorite creators. I would love to one day own a piece of your art. Is there an outlet to purchase your art?
There is a place to get my art. EssentialSequential.com. It's really easy. They got all my stuff. Just picked it up 2 months ago, so everything should be there.
Thank you, Robert, for the promo, so people knows where to go to get his art. I don't know if you work for Essential Sequential, but if you do, okay, and if you don't,
I appreciate it. Was that Jason?
No, it was Robert Lee. But that's why I say if you work.
Hey, how you doing, Rob?
So if he does work for them, good. If he doesn't, thank you. The promo is always good, well received. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye to people, Jeff, first. Then I will say proper goodbye to you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. See you all. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for your questions, as always. And I hope to see you tomorrow. We'll be with Mr. Daniel Acuña, Mr. Santiago Arcas, and Mr. Cafu. And it'll be fun. There'll be a lot of artists trolling and trying to get in the chat to make fun of them. You know that always happens. So see you tomorrow. I'm going to cut the feed. Thank you. 3,